Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV.com Now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down some of those big stories coming out of Washington and around in Georgia to talk about their impacts right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. As always, right now, we're going to start off with WSAV Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer. She's joining us live from outside the Capitol this morning. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much. You're covering some big stuff today going on the Hill. Obviously, we talked about last week, we lost, a huge civil rights icon, Representative John Lewis. Just over the weekend, they had a procession for him in Selma, where he crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, for the last time. And now I believe he's coming back to Washington today. So Kelly, tell us what you're going to be doing today, coverage-wise, to be able to see on Monday, to be able to see what they're going to be doing for John Lewis in the Capitol.
Yeah, well, you see me standing here now in front of the U.S. Capitol. So right there at the steps in the center is actually where Congressman Lewis is going to lie in state, they call it. He's going to be inside the rotunda for a private viewing for members of Congress. And then he's going to be moved out here onto the steps. So the public is actually going to come across on the bottom plaza level. So to ensure social distancing with COVID. So not only is it a massive civil rights icon and a massive loss, but it's also this happening during a pandemic. So there's two major things that are making this funeral and this procession so different from any other politician we've seen in Washington. So we're going to be covering it out here. We'll be doing live shots out here this evening. It opens to the public at 6 on through, I believe, 10 p.m. And they're going to do the same tomorrow night because obviously it's going to be a hot day in D.C. So they're going to have it a bit later on in the evening. But we'll be out here all day doing coverage. So definitely stay tuned. It's going to be a very historic day here in Washington.
Definitely a historic and somber day in Washington. Thank you as always for covering for us back at home. We want to switch gears a little bit though and touch up on some of the big headlines and big things we can expect coming out of the Capitol this week. They're expected to be discussing more about the latest stimulus package. I believe the White House and Senate Republicans are expected to roll out their plans, which they were talking about on some of the Sunday political shows yesterday. They were talking about the possibility for a second wave of direct payments, but again, a lot of the details still haven't been put out because they're still going to discuss it more. So Kelly, what are you hearing initially about about the latest relief package, and what can we expect? When can we expect it to be released, and when can we expect it to be passed in the Capitol?
Yeah, we are, like you said, hearing that plan is going to be released later on this afternoon. I'm hearing maybe about 4:30, but that's just right now approximate because we were expecting maybe the same thing to happen on Thursday morning, and it got pushed back because of negotiations between GOP and the White House. So now it looks like they came to an agreement. They're going to announce this, and then they plan to work on that with Democrats and negotiate as they go forward and try to get some sort of deal by the end of July is what we're looking for. Like you mentioned on the Sunday shows, I believe we heard the economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, say there is going to be a $1,200 check in this. So that has to be finalized still. So there are a few different things they're going to be tackling. Again, stay tuned on that because whether or not it passes, whether or not they come to an agreement, that's the big sticking point up here on Capitol Hill.
So Kelly, tell us a little bit more about it. What are you hearing from some of our lawmakers so far? I know that it's still very new. We still are waiting to hear and learn more details, but what are some of their preliminary thoughts about this? Are they eager to push it forward, or is there still going to be some pushback from representatives on the other side?
Well, as you know, Democrats have passed their plan 2 months ago, the HEROES Act. That's been sitting and waiting in the Senate for action. So a lot of Democrats are still wanting to push that through. But of course, as we know, Republicans weren't really for the $3 trillion price tag that came with, so they were working on their own. So it's going to be a negotiation between Republicans and Democrats on how much of the Democratic bill they can push into this new one and how much Republicans are willing to go for. But we know we're on a tight deadline. I talked with Georgia Senator David Perdue. his sticking point is really for the education funding. They're looking at about just over 100 billion for education. So for Republicans, the things that they're looking at for this one is education and healthcare and economy. So they're looking at anything that can help people through this. Those are their big sticking points, but they really want to get kids back to school, which is a huge topic. And we talked with Senator Perdue, who released his back to school plan, but they want to make sure they include funding in there because they want to see the kids get back to school, so then therefore the parents can get back to work and they can get the economy moving again. Let's take a listen to what Senator Perdue had to say to me last week.
This has been on my mind all along as we thought about shutting the economy down first, now reopening it. My wife is very adamant. You've got to protect teachers. You got to protect the children.
So we're going to shift gears a little, talking about from news out of the Capitol to news a little bit closer to home. The last week we heard the president say that they're canceling the in-person convention portion of the Republican National Convention, which was slated to go on in Jacksonville. Originally, it was set to go on in Charlotte, but there was pushback between the governor of North Carolina and the mayor of Charlotte because of such a large-scale event going on during the pandemic. Well, now, just today, Florida has surpassed New York. And now, Florida has the second largest number of coronavirus cases. Florida has the second largest number of coronavirus cases in the country. And so the president just said, it wasn't, paraphrasing, wasn't the right timing. They just had to change things up a little bit. So Kelly, what are they expecting to do for the RNC? Are they going to try to implement some of the things DNC is doing, where, DNC, most of their convention in Milwaukee is pretty much all going to be virtual?
Yeah, and that was just such an interesting change, the unconventional convention we're hearing, with President Trump coming out at that Thursday night briefing saying that RNC in Jacksonville was going to be canceled. Of course, they're still going to have that official business done in Charlotte. So we are back to Charlotte, which, as you know, and as we discussed here before, that he was pushing to leave Charlotte, North Carolina to go down to Jacksonville, Florida, because at that time he wanted a larger scale convention than the Democratic governor of North Carolina would agree to. And now he is canceling that. So we are going to see some official business happening in Charlotte. I'm hearing that members of the RNC are kind of scrambling to figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to hold this acceptance speech from the president, where he's going to do it. I did a story on Friday where Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary, was asked about this. And she said that they have some interesting ideas, some exciting ideas they're working on, but didn't say what. They don't have it decided yet. And it's also interesting because earlier, just even a couple weeks ago, I talked with RNC chairwoman or spokeswoman Liz Harrington, and she said, well, Biden is not doing it in person because he can't fill the seats. And now it's interesting to see the change because now they are canceling theirs as well. And I know he's been called out on about what he has said about Biden in the past. So really interesting to see how these conventions, again, these unconventional conventions we're going to see come up in August, less than a month away. We still don't know where President Trump is going to accept this nomination. We just don't know yet, and we're waiting to hear.
And it's definitely going to have to be something that they look more into, especially with current coronavirus cases still kind of surging again in a lot of states. I think they said over 40 states they're seeing a surge, especially down here in the Southeast. But Kelly, when is John Lewis's body expected to arrive at the Capitol this morning? Before we
just a few hours from now. I know we're chatting, it's about 10 a.m. In the East. He will be arriving here around 1:30 to head inside. So literally just behind me, he'll approach in the hearse. I'm on the Senate side of the Capitol, so he'll approach here and then drive up to those steps you see behind me and then be brought up. So we'll really have a bird's eye view of everything happening here. So please do stay tuned on Twitter. We'll be sharing this video all across our Next Star stations. So definitely stay tuned. A really, really big day here in Washington.
Definitely. It's definitely a huge, historic, and also a somber day in Washington right now. But thank you so much, Kelly, for taking the time to join us on a busy morning. Expected to be a busy day too on the Hill. Thank you as always for talking with us. And thank you again, Kelly, for giving us an update from Capitol Hill. We're being joined now by WSAV Georgia Capitol reporter Archis Sasadri from Atlanta. Hey, Archis, how are you doing?
Hey, doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. A little bit of a heat wave down south, but you know what? It's July. We can't expect anything else.
I
So
know. I'm impressed you have your suit and tie on because I'm already burning up in this, man.
and blowing on me. Don't get fooled. It's just at a shot. So speaking of things heating up, this legal battle between Governor Kemp and Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has been heating up over her mask mandate. I still think it's kind of ironic because Savannah was the first city to pass a mask mandate, and the governor is starting this legal battle with the Atlanta mayor. And so give us a little bit of an update of what's going on. We first heard about it, and obviously things in court take time. So give us a little bit of, what is the most up-to-date information that you have on the case and the legal battle?
Absolutely. So it's about 10 days now since when that lawsuit was first handed down from the governor's office. And a quick backstory on how all of this came about. So basically, Governor Kemp's office said that Atlanta's Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms does not or is overstepping her authority when it comes to that mask mandate. So this is the big debate that's going on. Should cities be allowed to make sure there is a mask mandate or not? But the governor says, listen, I want people to wear it. I encourage people to wear it, but I'm not going to enforce it because he says that a lot of restaurants and small businesses are feeling the brunt and he doesn't want the economy to suffer. And he said at a press conference last week that Georgians are smart enough to wear masks. They don't need a mandate. But the mayor was disagreeing with that. She said that no, the city of Atlanta needs to have a mask mandate. They need to roll back to phase one, which was the limited, small gatherings, groups of 10. And the governor said, this is just confusing. So there was a lot of back and forth in terms of who do people listen to, especially in the biggest city in the state, in Atlanta. So a judge now has ordered a mediation into this legal dispute. What was interesting about all of this is Keisha Lance Bottoms sits on the coronavirus task force with Governor Kemp. So they, for a good part, had a cordial relationship. They are expected to go back to court for hearing. Two different judges, in fact, recused themselves last week when there was supposed to be a hearing. So tomorrow is sort of the wait and watch game. We'll find out what happens. There has been some progress, though. They have talked, trying to patch things up a little bit. So we'll see how much of that mediation will stand.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a hot button issue here in Georgia because we've seen a number of other municipalities even after the governor passed his most recent executive order, we've seen a number of other municipalities across the state, Macon, Augusta. We've seen, a lot of these major metropolitan areas in Georgia implementing these mask mandates as well, following suit with Savannah and Atlanta. So, this really does set up this sort of legal battle between state and county mandates versus the governor's mandate and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like, how we talk about state rights, right? So there's almost like state rights versus city rights. What was interesting is the mayor went on one of the late night talk shows last week. And it was interesting. I think it was a Tonight Show. And she basically said that, listen, sometimes you have to agree to disagree without having this big quote unquote courtroom showdown. Ultimately, they both want the same thing. He leads the state. He leads the largest city in the state. What do they want? They want Georgia's numbers to come down and not be like some of the other states that are growing exponentially and get into one of those hotspots, if not already. California, Arizona, Florida, New York. So there was a conversation. I did reach out to the governor's office, and they told me that they had a good conversation with the mayor's office, and it's sort of still to be seen in terms of what will happen. Will that happen in terms of the courtroom showdown? Ultimately, the big message, though, from both of them, please wear a mask. So whether you're watching, you're listening, who's ever side you on, it's as simple as that. Wear a mask if you're outside, because they say the science does save lives.
And I think you bring up a great point, is that it's all the same end goal here. But again, I want to stress, and I brought this up earlier when I was talking to Kelly, that it's really just coming at such a time when I believe today, Florida has now surpassed New York for having the second largest amount of cases in the country, but obviously following after California, which has the largest number of cases in the country. So definitely this legal battle is going to go on for a while. So, just we'll obviously follow along with your reporting from Atlanta for the very latest on that, Archith. But something else that we started off the show with, because Kelly was outside the Capitol, the nation is in mourning. We're, following the different ceremonial events to honor former Representative John Lewis, who represented a Georgia district for decades. Right now, today on Monday, he's going to be in the Capitol, and he's going to be there for public viewing as well as a private viewing of congressional leaders. And then he's going to be coming back to Georgia later on in the week. So Archith, what are some of the plans for people to be able to, honor him and his legacy here back home here in the Peach State?
Absolutely. So in the Peach State in Atlanta on Wednesday, there's going to be a special ceremony. It's going to be lying in the state. Before that, it's going to be 2 to 3 p.m. at the Georgia State Capitol in downtown Atlanta. After that, he will be lying down in state for people to come. They're asking people to wear face and mouth coverings, sort of linking our earlier story if you are coming out and about. That's going to be from 3 to 7 p.m. So this is Wednesday afternoon. He'll be there 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. at the Capitol. And then the day after, Thursday, there's going to be a lifetime of service. That's going to be a celebration of life event. That's going to be at Ebenezer Baptist Church, not too far from the state capitol in the Sweet Auburn district. So that's going to kick off at 11 o'clock in the morning this Thursday. Of course, there's going to be expectations, speeches, tributes, memorials. We saw a lot of that already this weekend, where his casket was taken over the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama. And there was a lot of emotional tribute. We saw quite a bit of sort of parallelism to what happened in the 60s to what happened here. He fought battles to end segregation, racial justice, and equality. And, he was knocked over by a white officer back in the 60s. And it was very fitting tribute to have his casket wrapped in the American flag cross that bridge one last time. So an outpouring of support, not just in Alabama and Washington, D.C., but also coming back down here to Georgia Wednesday.
Definitely being able to, pay our respects a little more locally here, especially in this age of coronavirus. I'm just happy to see that they are able to actually, honor him publicly and celebrate him amongst this pandemic. But as always, thank you so much, Archith, for keeping us updated and giving us those necessary updates from the Georgia Capitol. We'll definitely be tuned in to you the rest of the week as, more events come out and we hear from the federal government about stimulus relief. Hopefully we'll see that kind of take shape here in Georgia.
Thanks, John.
Yes, thank you, Archith. All right, and you can see more of Archith's stories on our website, as well as Kelly's stories on our website. You can just go to wsav.com/Washington to see Kelly's stories, and you can just go to our Meet the Team and go to Archith's profile to see his stories. As always, you can also catch up on previous episodes of All Politics Are Local on our website. Just go to wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal. Thank you so much again for watching. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.